Okay, what's up, guys? I have just found some news on foxnews.com. Don't know if I really like hearing it or not, but I'm like, what the world happened? Here's the rundown. The Gulf Coast. Everybody knows the story about the Gulf Coast and the oil spill that has been going on, right? Who doesn't know? Well, here's the picture, big picture of what's been going on lately down there. Back in June, they discovered an oil plume. Basically, it's this big, huge cloud of oil, big, huge blob of oil in the Gulf Coast, and it's 22 miles long, 3,000 feet deep. 22 miles long, 3,000 feet deep. I got my notes right here. Anyway, the oil spill is going to be persisting longer than expected, even after we capped it off. Yeah, there's this big, huge oil spill down the Gulf, or plume, and people thought, back at the time, back in June, that it wasn't related to the Gulf spill. Well, it is. Reports have now shown that the oil did originate from the oil spill that happened back when the rig exploded. Christopher Reedy, I don't know how to say his last name. He works for Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute. He's an oil expert. He said, "We do not know how toxic the oil plume is." That to me is a big, huge red flag. I don't know what to take of it, because the fact that they knew that it was around in June. I understand how the fact that they had to evacuate the area of the Gulf Coast because of Hurricane Andrew. I understand that, but they could have at least said something about it back in June. I don't know why they didn't. I don't know. Anyway, what they do know is that this oil spill contradicts previous oil spill reports. Of course, that it wasn't connected to the oil spill. Well, reports claim that the vast majority, originally, before this plume was officially found, that the oil spill was majority, I use that in quotes, and I use those words loosely, is completely gone. Reports say that 25% consist of residual oil buried in sand and sediment. Basically, that means that it's all this oil that got washed up onto the shore is left. Obviously not. Researchers and Gulf Coast residents say that that report was untrue, that they did find oil out further in the Gulf. Obviously, this plume contradicts that. There seems to be contradiction between the government and researchers. That the government has done and other universities are trying to do is constrain a budget. I understand with saving money, I understand with trying to be fiscally responsible. That's good, that's great, I respect that. That shows you have good money skills, at least to me. But when it comes to an oil spill and the ecosystem down there in the Gulf and the beaches, beautiful sandy beaches down on the Gulf Coast, that has been tainted by oil, animals that have been put at risk for health reasons to them, the marine mammals down there in the Gulf that have been endangered because of this oil. Really says to me we should put all stops to the oil as quickly and as fast as possible. And them not trying to they are trying to. Don't get me wrong, they have tried. I do agree that they have tried. But I personally feel like they could have pulled out more stops. They could have spent a little bit more money on the oil spill to fix and correct it faster. With them trying to figure out how to fill it and try to stop the oil spill when the oil spill was leaking, that I think took longer than necessary. That was a big epic fail on BP's fault, on BP's and our side of the problems. We both should have worked faster, I think, but now that the reports are coming out about this plume, it shows again that we have a lack of necessity of trying to get to this plume as fast as possible and try to clean it up. Well, one thing is sure, that that the oil is down there. It has been shown conclusively that the plume exists, and there are these things called hydrocarbons. Basically what the hydrocarbon is that it helps break down oil back into its natural components, components that will not harm or endanger anything in the ecosystem that the oil is in right now. But the problem is that the oil spill, these hydrocarbons are working as fast as they can, but the oil spill is too great. It's been tracked at 4 miles. It's been tracked at traveling 4 miles a day. So it's not that fast, but fast enough to where it can get out to sea and do some damage. But the hydrocarbons are working as fast as they can, trying to degrade and decompose the oil as fast as possible. And but the problem is that there's just too much oil to where the oil will get too far out into the ocean before the oil will potentially be gone permanently, that whole plume. But that is the big thing that caught my eye today when looking at the news, is the fact that I think it's a little bit ridiculous to me. But what's your thoughts on it? I want to hear your thoughts about this whole plume and the oil spill. What do you guys think that should have been done faster? Do you think it should have been done at the same speed that it has been done at? Do you think that we should have heard about this oil plume earlier in June when this was discovered? What do you guys think? Let me know in the descriptions below, and I will enjoy reading your comments. See you later.